Hi, guys. Hi, it's Jessica from A Class Act New York. Hi, guys. We're going to be joined today by Kevin Kemler. He works at Marymount Manhattan College in the admissions office, and I can't wait to talk to him because he has a lot of amazing things to share with us today about the college audition process and all sorts of good stuff. So hang tight with me while I grab Mr. Kevin. Hang on 1 minute. How do I do that again? I don't want to go to the questions part. Give me a second. Okay, here we go. I'm going to invite Mr. Kevin to join me right now. Hold on one sec. I hope I'm doing the right Kevin Kemler. There's several. Okay, so let's see if Kevin is able to join. Hopefully I asked the right Kevin Kemler. So you guys, today is going to be an amazing opportunity to talk about the college prep. Hi, Ellie. We're going to talk about the college prep, preparing for our auditions, which I know everybody is thinking about, the pre-screen process, the in-person audition, all that jazz. Hi, Aiden Donahue. We miss you so much. And I'm so upset that you're not going to be in Chicago because we need you. We want you. We love you. We miss you. So rethink that decision, okay? So anyway, hi, everybody. We're just waiting for Kevin Kemler from Marymount Manhattan College to talk about the college prep. We're going to be doing an in-person college prep course August 14 and 15 in New York City for those of you that can make it. If not, you can always do private coaching with Kevin from Marymount or also with Wayne Petro of Pace University. That's another option as well. They both teach private coaching for us on Zoom, but also in person if that's something if you can't make it to New York City for the in-person audition prep. So Kevin, hello. Okay, hold on, Kevin. Go live. Hi.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How's it going with you?
Good, thanks. Sorry, I'm trying to figure out Instagram Live for the first time.
Listen, I still don't know what I'm doing. I've done it a bunch of times. I'm still like, how do I do this? So Kevin, okay, I'm wearing my Michigan hat because I'm an old lady, but many years ago, Kevin, in 1990, I auditioned for colleges. But a lot has changed since 1990, that I can say. So we're going to talk to you about that because I know you're an expert.
Yeah, of course.
So can you tell me about what it is that you do at Marymount Manhattan College?
Yeah, so I serve as the Assistant Director of Fine and Performing Arts Admissions and Recruitment and Enrollment. So a super long title, I always say a very fancy title for me, overseeing our entire division of Fine and Performing Arts. So I oversee our theater department, I oversee our dance department, and our Department of Art and Art History as well. I'm also the sole person in charge of overseeing and sort of implementing our audition process each year for both the theater arts program and the dance department. Yeah. So
you have a lot on your plate. You have to deal with art history also on top of all of this?
Yeah.
Wow. So do you have a background in all of these things? What's your background, Kevin?
Yeah, my background, so I'm a professional actor. So I, going into college, when I auditioned, which is it's escaping from me too. Every year that passes, I'm like, oh gosh, it was how long ago? I was like,
not as long as when it was for me, right? Not as long as 1990.
Not quite, but I'm catching up slowly. So yeah, I was like, I'm going to be the next Meryl Streep. Let's do this. And then as I went through sort of my training, and I'm an alum of Marymount. I have to just shout out that as well. I graduated back in 2015 at Marymount with my undergraduate. And I sort of discovered myself not only as an actor, which I knew and I'd been training for a while, but also as a theater historian and a theater educator and somebody who actually enjoys being in the classroom in the process too. And so I dabble in all of that as well as this main capacity at Marymount.
And I love having you in the classroom because sometimes you'll come in and teach our college prep courses, plus you teach privates for us to help kids get ready for their college auditions and their pre-screens. So first I want to talk to you about that specifically. You have an impressive background. Now we know what you do at Marymount, or we sort of think we know what you do at Marymount. I probably couldn't repeat that if you asked me to. But the pre-screen process, now this is something that did not exist in my day, but of course we're going back a long time. Now it's been around for a while, but tell me, explain what a pre-screen video is for those people that may not know. And then can you tell me what makes a stellar pre-screen? What makes somebody stand out?
Yeah. So the pre-screen process it can be different for colleges, right? So specifically at Marymount, we don't require that. But I know a lot of my colleagues at schools elsewhere around the nation, they do require that pre-screen round. And it is nothing to stress over or be super stressed about, right? Basically what the college is saying is we get a lot of auditions coming in and a lot of requests for auditions, right? And so we want to make sure as the college and the program that when you come to our auditions, right? Whether that be live in person, whether that be a digital submission, or if you're doing one of the new online iterations, which we've all sort of adopted from this past year, which I think is great because we're sort of staying in tune with the industry as well and how we're conducting those auditions. What we want is to make sure that we have that time for you when you step in that room. And so that intro pre-screen is really for us to begin to get to know you early on in the process. A stellar pre-screen video, of course, is being able to represent who you are as a performer and a theater artist, but also to show us who you are as an individual. And I think that's the most important part of it is we take a look at those and, you know, often than not, we're not watching the full pre-screen videos, right? We're just getting a sense of who you are as an individual and a performer and saying, this person is a perfect fit for our school. Let's invite them over. And so I often tell clients in my one-on-ones, even with a class act, that no need to stress about the pre-screen. It does not have to be a perfect video. You do not need professional grade camera or sound. As long as we can see you clearly and hear you clearly, that's all that matters technically. And then as long as you're presenting the material that the colleges are asking for, which a lot of us in higher ed now have partnered with the Paper Mill Playhouse Common pre-screen. And this is the most amazing thing ever. And I kind of wish it was around when I was auditioning for schools as well. But instead of a student having now to prepare 9 million different pieces for the X amount, let's say like 15 schools they may be auditioning for, now all of us accept a component list of these same requirements. And so you can check all of that off and submit that same pre-screen video to multiple colleges without it taking extra time now. So super wonderful process. But yeah, the pre-screen, it should really just be a chance for you to get to sort of shine behind the camera and get to show us yourself before you get to that audition.
Yes, and I'm going to add one thing that I find, you know, just from when we do casting, whether it's our own shows, and I used to work in casting as well before I founded a class act back in 2005. God, I'm old. Basically, something that we do look for, though, is people paying attention to directions. So let's say the Paper Mill Playhouse pre-screen application says, film it, you know, in landscape, not in portrait. And, you know, we want a 16-bar cut and a 32-bar cut. They should be contrasting in 2 different monologues and 1 Shakespearean, whatever they're asking for. Follow those directions because, believe it or not, that can make or break whether or not, you know, what we think of you. If you don't pay attention to the slate, and a slate, guys, is the way we introduce ourselves on camera. You know, hi, my name is X, Y, and Z. I live in X, Y, and Z city. I'm this years old. Sometimes they want to know your height even, maybe not for a pre-screen so much, but it depends. It may be, I don't know. However, you know, following the directions is super duper important. Mm-hmm. And when you don't follow directions, that doesn't speak very well of you. So whether you're applying for if you're sending something into a casting director for a job, or you're, you know, obviously trying to get into a university, please follow the directions. Sometimes I'll get, Kevin, for example, videos where like the kids' heads are cut off, you know?
Right.
Or I'm seeing like the ceiling and not and the kid is taking up this much of this, and I'm seeing a wall, or the wall has a lot of distracting features on it. Maybe there's paintings, there's photographs, there's clocks.
Right.
You know, a blank background, or even just getting on Amazon a cheap backdrop is worth every penny, whether you're applying for colleges or you're just even sending yourself out for jobs. So I do think, you know, having a blue background makes everybody look good, makes you pop. And, you know, look, you should not wear, as you can see, I'm wearing glasses because I can't see otherwise, and I don't do contacts yet. But if you're going to use a ring light, don't use glasses. And glasses, ideally, if you have contacts, I think glasses, it's always better to take the glasses off because we want, unless you really, really need them. But if you don't need to work with the glasses, then take them off because we really want to be able to see you and connect with you through your eyeballs. So that's another thing to note. These glasses, for example, this would not be something I would suggest. So I'm seeing some familiar kids here. Hi, Zoe. Haven't seen you in a while. Good to see you. So Kevin, my next question for you is at Marymount specifically, what do you guys look for in college applicants? Is there something specific that you're looking for?
Yeah, we're looking really for a lot of it goes into community fit. I mean, everyone that's auditioning for us is so talented, right? And we, of course, are looking for that in the audition, but it's so much more. It's about showing us who you are as an individual through the material you're selecting. And so I often tell students as they're going through the process, don't perform what you think we want to see from you. Perform what feeds your soul as an artist, because by those selections that you're choosing to bring to us, we're gleaning a lot from you. At Marymount, our audition process is super unique in that you're not going into your traditional setting where you have about 2 minutes, you slate, you do your pieces, and you're done for the day. We're actually spending a sizable amount of time with you, working with you in the studio. And so students will come in all the time with sort of the preconceived, pre-rehearsed idea of what their monologue or their song should look like. And we'll sit there and we'll watch through that. And then we'll say, actually, hang on, can we go back to this line? Can you tell me what your character's thought process is here? Tell me a little bit background. Why did you choose this material? Yeah. And so we're really hands on the ground working with our actors and our performers to see them work through the material, because that's what's important for us, is to watch them in action.
To see that they can take direction, to see that they can, that they're people who are willing to and open to new ideas and to working together. Exactly. And also to see that they've done their homework, that they know the who, what, where, when, you know, answering all of those questions for themselves. When you break down a song, guys, when you break down a monologue, you really should know who you're talking to, where they are in the room in relation to you. What is your objective? Perhaps you have several objectives within the piece. What are your obstacles or your conflicts? What tactics are you going to use to achieve your objective? So all of those things, it's important to not just go to see. When I was a kid, I just went in there with raw emotion and feeling. I just instinctively felt but I hadn't answered any of those questions for myself. I hadn't done any of that work. Something else that Michigan, at least, I know when I went to audition, and again, we're going back to 1990, but when I went to audition in 1990, one thing that happened was I was not prepared for a dance call. Nowadays, we just did, 2 contrasting monologues, 2 songs, maybe one was Shakespeare. I don't remember. I did have a Shakespearean monologue, but I can't recall. But I did have a Shakespearean monologue in my back pocket, as well as 2 contrasting monologues, more contemporary, and then 2 contrasting songs. And then the head of the program, this man, Brent Wagner, said, okay, we're going to go to the, dance call. And I'm like, well, I'm not prepared to dance, because no other university that I applied for asked for, the dance was not a part of the audition. It was at Michigan. Hi, Ari Caven. Then another thing that he did that was interesting and something that other schools did not do was he asked me if I could sight sing. And I was like, no. So I didn't know how to do that. And he he's like, just try. He's playing the piano and just making up notes. Another thing that he did was, do you play an instrument? And I'm like, no, I don't. Like, sit down at this piano. I'm like, okay. So certain colleges expected, like Michigan, a very competitive school, expected, I don't know how I got in till this day, they expected a lot more from their actors than other universities. What does Marymount expect at an audition? And I think it's pretty standard that everybody has a dance call nowadays, right?
Yeah, typically. And I'll say, and I'll sort of vamp off of that, your story about Michigan, please ask the admissions folks all the questions that you have about the process, right? Because what we know auditions in and of themselves, college-wise or professional, are the most stressful things you can go through, right? And so our job in sort of administering these is for you to be able to approach it with no surprises, or as little surprises as possible. And so I will always say to my students each year that are coming to Marymount or looking at Marymount, what questions do you have? What do you need to know so that you can be the most prepared on that audition day? And so please don't ever feel like you're bothering us or I've already asked them X amount of questions. We want to hear from you, and we want it to be the greatest and most educational process as possible, right? Because this is an audition for going to continue your training and going to school. And so this is an educational experience in and of itself. And so we want to provide you as much as we can. So yeah, please ask us all of those questions. That goes for pre-screening too. If you're unsure, well, how should I slate for this school? Well, just shoot over an email to me and be like, Kevin, I'm confused. What slate are you looking for specifically? And I'll write it back to you. I'll write a script for you and you'll get that and you'll be able to feel super confident in that submission. But Yeah, for Marymount, for our musical theater program, we require a dance audition, and then you have to have two contrasting song selections and a 1 minute contemporary monologue is what we're looking for. We don't ask for classical work because the beginning of our program is really establishing yourself as the instrument, right? So breaking down and straying away from script. So how does my body move to tell a story? That's our foundation. Then we're moving through, we're adding text into that. We're training you to go through that. Then your junior and senior year, we start introducing those classical texts and folks that are speaking a little bit further from what we might, or the way we might speak today. So we don't ask for that classical, but as you mentioned, some schools do. So definitely look into that and have that in your back pocket. Our dance call is for placement purposes. So we say that very upfront. It's going to have no bearing on entrance into the program whatsoever. We want to get you into a room with 20 other students, dancing alongside them and getting comfortable, getting those nerves out before your afternoon monologue and song portion of the day, right? Getting to know us, feeling that collaborative community environment, and also to see where you are in your moving journey. So are you a strong mover? Have you had extensive amount of training? Have you been in ballet, jazz, etc.? That helps us with placement. So if we offer you a place in our program, we then take that scoring to place you into the level of dance that we're looking for. But by no means, when I was auditioning for musical theater programs too, I was like, I wouldn't even say a strong mover. I'm just a mover. I'm glad I can get from point A to point B. But you know what? At Marymount, it was like, you do not have to be a dancer right now, and that's okay, right? Okay. And there are other sort of aspects to you as a performer. But again, some schools weigh it differently. Some it may be part of their admissions process. So again, double check with them. It's interesting because at Marymount, dance is a really integral part of our training. You're in daily dance every morning at 8 a.m. So rain or shine.
I hated that. Ballet class at 8 a.m. was not fun when you're a freshman in college in Michigan trying to have a good time with your buddies. Yeah. Yes, 8 a.m. But those kids were serious about their craft. And so they were up. I was a little more like, hey, I want to go to the football game. But Kevin, so you guys every day start your day at 8 a.m. once with a dance class.
Yeah, that's correct. Every day, every morning. And we vary styles from day to day. So one day you might have ballet, one day you might have jazz, one day you might be doing tap. Dana Moore's on faculty with us, so you may be in her class and focusing on sort of the traditional Fosse method one day, right? So it's a culmination of all of these styles, but it's great because we utilize dance later on in our curriculum that senior year when you're going out on professional auditions as your warm up before you're stepping into the Pearl studio next door to go on your audition. And so we're like, great, come warm up with us, come get all your.
Great. Can you hear me still? Because I know we glitched a little bit there.
Yes, I can hear you. Your picture's not moving. Oh, you're back.
Yeah. Oh, I'm back. Okay, this always happens to me, Kevin. I love technology. So interesting. So dance is not necessarily something that is a make or break at Marymount. That's interesting. I like to hear that for those kids that, there's a lot of students who are very talented singers, very talented actors, but they are a little weaker with the dance. They may not have they don't have the training. So it's nice to know that you guys are not, writing them off simply because they don't have a lot of dance experience.
Yeah, no, you know what? Come in, and if you can't remember the choreography, the time that you're going, just sell that story. If we're doing Freak Flag from Shrek, sell that story. If we're doing You Can't Stop the Beat, just do whatever. We just want to see you working. That's really what we're looking for. And to see your passion for the work and your ability to sort of take on suggestions and different types and different ways to work is really what we're looking throughout the entire, both dance and the afternoon audition portion as well.
So, okay, so take me through the audition exactly. So we start off with what is the first thing that you do when you go to a Marymount audition? Let's say you pass, you don't have a pre-screen process, right? True?
Correct.
So we get our in-person audition, and what is the first thing where do we go?
Yeah, so I'm going back on campus because I can't think about a virtual world anymore. So when you're coming on campus with us, you will sign in at 9 a.m. at the check-in table. You will see my sunshiny, coffee, smiley face in the morning welcoming you to campus. I have an amazing group of student workers that are going to be there welcoming you, sort of showing you where to hang out, where to warm up, and all of that. Once you check in with us, we'll take your headshot, your resume. We will give you your groupings for the day. So everything at a Marymount audition happens in a classroom setting. So that dance happens in a classroom setting, and your monologue and song happen in a classroom setting.
So other people are there watching, other potential applicants are there, other applicants are watching you do your monologue and your song. Oh.
Yeah, exactly.
Right,
and contributing to that class conversation, because that's so important about the Marymount education, right? It's to be active in and an active participant in the learning of your fellow peers, right? Because sometimes something might not click for us when we're up there working, but when we're sitting down and the spotlight's not on us and we're seeing a faculty member work with somebody, we're like, oh my God, that makes so much sense. And so we want those students in that classroom setting to really be engaged in the work of their fellow peers. So that morning, you'll sign in with us, you'll hang out in our Starbucks lounge, and then we'll call you up to the individual warm-up rooms for dance. You'll go in there with 2 student workers. You'll be able to ask them questions. Oh my God, what's going to happen in the next room when you take me in there? How does that work? They'll help warm you up. Then you'll go into our fabulous dance studio with our fabulous daily dance coordinator, Bethany Christine Elkin, and she will warm you up. She will introduce herself, introduce the program, how daily dance functions, and then take you through a comprehensive warm-up to make sure everybody's warm and safe. And then we'll take you through and we'll teach you the combination. We spend a good chunk of time, about 20 minutes per group, just learning the combination and getting your questions answered about exactly what that dance is for the day. We'll then send you in groups of about 5 to perform in front of the faculty adjudication panel to sort of see how you've picked up that material and how you're telling that story. After that, you are free to go and you're on a little intersession break. Typically, the dance call runs from about 9 until noon or so. Then you get an hour for lunch. We provide you with discounted places around Marymount so that you can get to know the neighborhood and the area as well. Then you'll come back at 1 p.m. we have an information session where you will hear me talk exhaustively for 45 minutes to an hour about our program with my amazing colleagues and faculty members as well. And then we will break you off into your afternoon audition groups. There are about 6 audition rooms that happen on any given day. And sometimes 7, so sometimes 4 musical theater rooms and then 3 just BFA acting rooms that are going off. You get 2 faculty members per room, and then you'll go ahead in there. The faculty will run you through a vocal warm-up and then also a movement warm-up. Then we'll head right into your pieces. Every student, we normally go in alphabetical order so there are no surprises. And every student will go up, present their material, and then we'll work through that with you for anywhere from 5 to 7 minutes per applicant. So a Marymount audition can last anywhere from 9 a.m. until about 6 p.m. at night. It's a full day event with us. And the reason for that is we want you to leave that day to say 100%, this is it for me. This is where I want to learn. Love the faculty, love the community. Or vice versa, you leave that day and say, you know what, that's not for me. And that's all we can hope for, is that you have a strong sense of your journey as you're continuing through the process.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's interesting. Because I remember when I was auditioning, again, going back to 1990, it was just me alone in a room, except if the Michigan dance call, that was, of course, with other people, but I skipped that part. But everybody else was, but every other audition I had was I was alone in the room. But that's interesting the way Marymount does it. I think there's something very educational. Do you think that could cause extra nerves, though, for some of the kids, that because they have to perform in front of other people that they're competing against, or that they view as their competition potentially?
Yeah,
I wonder if that could cause some nerves.
I think that it's definitely a possibility. And I remember going into my audition, it did cause a little on edge, right? But I know that there are other schools out there that we work with all the time that are also conducting group auditions, right? And it's becoming more of the norm. Really what we want is for you to network. You're going to be seeing folks at Marymount's audition that you've seen at Michigan's audition, at CCM, at Boston Conservatory, right? And so what we hope is that by putting you in those groups, you already sort of have a safety net in the community. We also 100%, we will say it to you 5,000 times that you're on campus with us. You are not in competition with anyone else. It may feel like you're in competition with other folks, but we run our program and we say we have a no diva policy in our program, right? It's about really, you're competing with yourself the last time you did this material and you were in a studio. That goes out into the business, right? Because if I think about that guy that's next to me that looks exactly like me, has my hair, has green eyes, and is also a tenor, I'm like, oh my God, I'm never going to get this part. But if I'm saying, you know what, I am right for this school, I'm right for this part, and I'm going in here to show them why, then the only person you're in competition with is yourself, and you can only be better than the last time you were. And so we're saying that all the time, but the community that I think we foster is that if somebody, you know, and this happens often, right? If somebody in my room forgets a line, other folks will be cheering them on and saying, no, it's okay, just start over, right? And so right from day one at that audition, we are fostering that sort of group support of,
Sense of community, yeah.
yeah, exactly. And you're all going through it, right? Even though you feel siloed and alone in the audition process, the 170 other kids on campus feel the same way you do. And so we're hoping that you get this communal energy of excitement and nerves and get that out through your work.
Right. And it's almost like the first day of camp. Like you're meeting other
Yeah,
people who also have the same interests as you, the same goals as you. And it's kind of nice to know that you're not alone. I
right.
like that. I think that's really cool. So one of the questions, I mean, this is just something that's so interesting to me. It's not necessarily a question, but what I've noticed is, you know, going back to 1990, there wasn't, yes, it was competitive. Sure, it definitely was competitive. The kids that went to Michigan were very talented, for example. However, it wasn't nearly as competitive as it seems to be today. Something has happened in the last 20 years where, and I don't know if it's because of the advent of the internet and people have access to see theater and, you know, go to YouTube and watch wonderful performers, you know, belt their hearts out. I don't know if it's because of access to theater that there is a much greater interest in becoming an actor.
Yeah.
And then there's also many more avenues, I think, as well, which is a wonderful thing with the advent of, you know, streaming platforms, well, like YouTube or Instagram now or TikTok
Right.
even, but, you know, just simply like Netflix, Amazon, Apple, all of these wonderful streaming platforms. So there's many more opportunities for performers.
Yeah.
But what do you know, what are your thoughts on why it is so much more competitive today? And how many applicants would you say you get in a typical year?
Yeah. So I will attack the numbers question first, because I always tell folks in the process that you're going to hear statistics and numbers from every college. And this is the insider scoop. It's all a game, right? Because we are all competing with each other as colleges, right? And it's a friendly competition. I don't say competitive in sort of a mean-spirited way. We are all looking to build our classes each year. That's just the nature of the game. And so some schools will we only take a cohort of 12 people while you're sitting in a room of 300 that are about to audition for that college, right? And that's all psychological games. So don't worry about numbers, because that will only throw you for a loop. At Marymount, we take in a large cohort of students. So our musical theater program, anywhere from 50 to 55 students per year we're looking for. For our BFA acting program, that's another 50 to 55 students. So it's a large cohort, and within that, we're breaking you down into smaller cohorts that you can move seamlessly throughout your 4 years. And so you're getting that 12-to-1 student faculty ratio that you'll be getting at any other program. Overall, application wise, so I'll give you last year's numbers and this year's numbers. I'm super transparent in this also, because I like to hear other people's feedback about like this conversation, right? We're all asking this. Why are we getting so many applicants? What's happening? What is that impetus for students to want to go into this? Typically, I'm seeing about 1,600 students for musical theater, roughly about 1,800 in total for our theater department. This year, I saw over 2,300 applicants in total. So there was a huge jump, which is amazing to me, right? Because of everything that's going on with COVID and lack of access. But I think that's lit a fire in everyone, even us in the professional industry. We're like, we can't wait to get back into a studio, right? Like that's all we want to do. So within that, sure, we're looking for a class of 50 to 55 students, and other folks may be looking from 12 to 15. But what they're not telling you is to get that 12 to 15 or to get the 50 to 55, they're admitting X amount more. And so that whole thing about numbers, as I say, take it with a grain of salt, because it really is all about the mathematics that go into and go behind it. So really, when you're going into your audition, these tactics that schools are using, it's to make us look more competitive. It's to make us look more prestigious, right? I mean, we all have great programs, and each program is so different. So when you're going through the process, I always tell folks that I know auditioning, you actually have power in this process, right? Because as much as you're auditioning for our program or our school, we're actually in a way auditioning for you as well. You need to make sure that this is the place you want to spend the next 4 years, or the X amount of money it's going to cost to go through this program. And so don't forget that you have power in that audition process, and saying, I'm using this not only as an audition to better my career and, of course, to get into the school of my dreams, but also to experience a professional type audition and also to experience, well, what is this school offering me in this process and what can I glean about them? I'm not sure if that answered your second question. I got carried away with the numbers.
I think you answered my question for sure. I think for sure you did. Thank you. Okay, another thing that I wanted to bring up. So competition, I think it's interesting though, it's going back to something you said earlier, where the universities accept, let's say some of the more competitive ones accept 12 to 15 kids, but they're not necessarily getting their top choice of the
Right.
first, five of those kids may turn them down to go to a different school that was a better fit for them. So it is a juggling. That's always, that I would imagine is a difficult process as well for the university, just being on your end,
Yeah.
trying to figure out how many should we accept and how many are. But my next question for you is, I think one that I get all the time too. Is it really necessary to go to school to get a BFA in musical theater, or does it make sense for me to have, or does it make sense for me to double major? Can you double major at Marymount? Because I think it's always a smart idea to have a backup plan. That's my personal thought.
Yeah.
You never know. Like when I went to Michigan, of course, my dream as a child was to be an actor. And I thought, this is what I love and this is what I'm going to do. But then when I got there, I kind of realized that, you know what, this isn't necessarily the life for me. It's not the lifestyle I want.
Right.
Unless I can be Meryl Streep, I'm not really interested in a bus and truck tour, just truthfully.
Right.
So I decided then and there that I probably didn't have what it took to stick it out. I didn't have the stick-to-itiveness. And that's okay. Sometimes we make these decisions. You're still young when you go to college. You're still a teen, So you kind of have to make these decisions as you go along. And some kids just say, I have to get this degree. My life depends on it. I'm like, well, you might change your mind also. Like you have no idea what the future holds for you. Once you get to school, you might decide you don't want to be an actor. You might want to be a teacher. You might want to do something else entirely.
Right.
So having a backup and having if you can double major or have a minor in something useful, I think makes sense. But also I think the one good thing about going to a conservatory program is it ends in a showcase for agents and managers and casting directors, people who are looking for new talent.
Yeah.
That's the one. I mean, the training is incredible. Of course, the intensive training is incredible. But then you add on the showcase at the end in which you get to meet industry people who are looking for new clients. And that's where, when I worked at a talent agency called Professional Artists, for example, I would go to the showcases of all these, wonderful colleges. And that's where we would find a lot of our, clients. So I think that's a benefit. I think obviously the intensive training is incredible, but I'm not certain that you have to go to school for 4 years to become an actor.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about that?
I mean, that's 100% completely correct. I mean, I hold the same opinions, right? It's about the educational journey, which you allude to, rather than the product, right? Because we tell students all the time, if you're using Marymount as a means to get to New York City to audition, then by all means come to New York City and audition, right? Because there are plenty of folks that don't go to school for this, that, they'll walk into a casting director's office and they're exactly what that casting agent's looking for, that casting director's looking for. So that happens all the time. It's 100% not necessary. But the students that I think we attract and are looking for are those ones that are hungry to do the work. And of course, we all want to be a part of this industry, right? Otherwise, we'd be doing the myriad other things we could be doing. But that's a question, and what you bring up, that I tell applicants every year to ask at every school. Can I only do musical theater? Can I do a minor? Can I do a double major? Can I double concentrate? Because that might be something you're interested in, right? I mean, same thing. I went in 18 years old saying, this is what I want to do with the rest of my life. Going through the curriculum at Marymount, I found myself as a theater historian and an educator. I did an internship at New York Theater Workshop. I was downtown. I was teaching in classrooms across Brooklyn and lower arts academies downtown. And I was like, well, what exactly does it mean to be an education intern? How can I make a life for myself in theater this way? Which I didn't know coming into school. I was like, well, you know what? It's being on Broadway, it's being behind a camera, and that's it. But this industry is so multifaceted. And so what can the college do to prepare you to work in that industry, regardless of what you're doing or what you want to be doing, right? And that journey changes. We see students all the time. I mean, some of my amazing friends are on Broadway on hiatus right now, right? And others went to school for this, and now they're in medical school, they're in veterinary school, they're going to be lawyers, right? So their theater training prepared them to go into these fields that their heart really was in going through. BFA, BA, BM, those are just degree titles. So it does not, one is not weighed heavier over the other. And I don't know, even if you have insight of working in previously in casting, right? It's really about watching you walk into the room. And if you are right for that part, you are right for that part. We really don't care about the F between the B and the A. What's really important is the credits and the coursework that you're going to be taking. And so every program you're looking at, look at a comprehensive course plan. Ask the school, can you provide me from day one till graduation? What am I getting? Is your school offering a showcase? Is that open to everyone? Is it audition? Are you cut? Am I going to be guaranteed a spot, right?
Right.
These are all 100, these are all the questions you should be asking. And specifically at Marymount, we have a showcase. We're a conservatory style program in a larger liberal arts college. And so you take 64 credits, which is, a BFA is normally 60 to 90 credits, right? So it's very intensive in that style training. And then 42 on top of that for your degree is in the liberal arts. And so as a theater major, you're being pushed into the sciences, you're being pushed into psychology, right? That helps you get that liberal arts degree. It often helps parents say, okay, at least they're getting the backbone in the liberal arts alongside that conservatory style.
Right.
And we often
do you cut people? Do you guys cut people in your program?
No,
Okay.
we don't have a cut program. We have a jury process where it's mainly for you to check in with faculty and make sure you're progressing exactly how you would like. It helps us stay in closer conversation and contact with you throughout. But no, if we offer you a place in our program, you are with us if you choose to stay with us through those 4 years and through the showcase experience as well. Showcase with us is open. It's a class experience. So it's a lab and a lecture. We have a lecture on Fridays where we bring industry professional, we bring in recent alums, we bring in an accountant for how to do your taxes as an independent artist, right? These things we don't think about. Take you to Actors Equity. And then we pair with Actors Connection, and they help us get the casting agents and directors in the room. So if you have room in your schedule and it's your priority to take that class, you're in our showcase, which I think is great as well, right? Because you're working so hard those 4 years. And if you want that showcase experience, go for it. If you're like, you know what, maybe I want this acting for the camera class instead, or I want to perform in our cabaret class, you can sort of pick and choose that professional prep year exactly where you want to be as you're stepping into your own professional career as an artist.
Interesting. We do a lot of showcases as well for adults and for young adults. Actually, the next one is June 22nd, where we have 20 agents and managers that are going to be there. So it's not absolutely necessary, and there are other showcases in Manhattan. It's not absolutely crucial that you go to a school to study. And you can also, I just had a student recently who I did a consult with. She's at NYU. She decided not to apply for the musical theater Tisch school. And so she went into the liberal arts school, and then she changed her mind freshman year, halfway through. She's like, wait, why did I do this? Yeah. She tried out for the program, but didn't get in. And she was wondering, well, now what? And do I need to have this degree? And I'm like, not necessarily. You can still, there's plenty of studios in Manhattan that are for adults as well. And you can always go to school during the day and then take classes, at night or on the weekends. And you could still do showcases. So it's not absolutely crucial, although having that intensive training, I think there is something to be said about that. And at these really wonderful universities, they will break you of your bad habits. And, you really do get to, and when you're young and more malleable, because I do think that younger people are a little bit more malleable than older people. As we get older, we get a little bit more stuck in our ways. I find that you are able to make greater changes as a younger person. That's my personal experience having coached people. My next question for you is, do you let people, so at Michigan, for example, they had sent me out on a few professional auditions, like at a local theater that had just opened, the Chelsea, what was it called? The Purple Rose Theater that Jeff Daniels had created. So they had sent me out on auditions as a freshman. I thought that was interesting. Now, and I know that some other famous people like Taylor Louderman, she was there as a freshman, and then she booked Bring It On, the musical. So they obviously let her out to do that. Do you allow your freshmen, sophomores, juniors, and seniors to audition for professional productions while they are still in school? Or does your program frown upon that, because some do?
Yeah, it's not necessarily a frown upon. It's more of that we want your faculty advisor, and I think this is also something that I wanted to mention. Every student in our program gets a faculty advisor. It's a full-time faculty member in your program of choice. So if you're a musical theater student, you're getting one of our full-time faculty members advising you through the process and through your entire studies with us. You're meeting with them multiple times. You'll see them at Starbucks and they'll say, how's it going today, Kevin? And you'll be like, you know what, I really bombed my audition prep class. And they say, okay, well, I have 5 minutes. Let's come in. Let's talk through it. So you have somebody in your corner from day one. We do not frown upon professional engagements. We just say as long as it does not conflict with your schoolwork, right? First and foremost, you're coming to Marymount to train as a theater performer and to learn with us. The other caveat of that is that being New Yorkers, we know for every good opportunity, there are 100 ones that you do not need to be doing in somebody's basement over in Staten Island, right? No shade to Staten Island, but as a freshman student, staying by campus and not getting on the ferry at 11 o'clock at night, right? We're thinking for the well-being of our students. And so we're saying, if you want to do a student film or you want to do a professional commercial that's shooting on the weekend that's not conflicting with your classwork, by all means, go ahead and do that. Now, we've had instances where our students have booked national tours, booked Broadway gigs. We had a student that was actually Tracy Turnblad in the Hairspray Live, right, when she was a student with us. And she got these opportunities because she sat down with her advisor and said, listen, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and I really feel that this is it for me. And we're never going to say no to that. We're going to say, okay, great. How can we guide you through this process? How can we make this an educational endeavor? We never will just throw you into a professional audition and hope that you learn something from that. It's more of a guided process. With that said, summer stocks, your winter musical back home on the intersessions, go do that, build your resume. That's what we want for you. We hold A1 auditions and sometimes straw hats on campus as well, so that the auditions are actually happening in between classes. So you can come into our studios, you could go to class, and you can audition for summer stock. Students all over the country doing that every year. We tout you doing internships. We'll push you. We'll say, hey, my friends at Telsey Casting, they're looking for an intern. Let me get you in contact with them. I know you're interested in possibly going into that. And then senior year, we are guiding you through professional auditions. And we're saying XYZ is happening right next to your dance class on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Sign up for that open call, go to that. And then when you come back to class, let's discuss how that went. So it's very mentored in the process. So it's definitely allowed. It's just, I call it the kosher process, right? It's about talking with your faculty advisor and saying, can I do this? Is this feasible? And without putting my studies or my obligations at Marymount on the back burner.
I'm sure if it's a big Broadway show, they're not going to say, no, you may not do that.
Right, exactly.
In terms of diversity, one last question, and then if anybody else has questions, I'll open it up to them. In terms of diversity, obviously the world is, we're aiming to be more diverse in this industry, which is a really wonderful thing. In terms of, maybe you can't talk about this, but I figured I'd ask anyway.
Yeah.
What is the diversity like at Marymount specifically? And is it more difficult for certain actors to gain entry based on their ethnicity or their type?
Yeah. That's interesting. So I'm glad you asked this question, actually. So I'm a first generation Cuban American. My mom was born in Havana, right? And so going through this program, I'm a huge advocate for equity in our process, equitability in our process, and even throughout our education. And so Marymount as a whole, as many other institutions, have really had to have a self-reflective look at ourselves and say, we have not been aiding our students properly and the way we should have been. And so a lot of our programs are now taking accountability for that, or beginning the work to take accountability for that rather, and saying, well, what can we do in our curriculum to help our students? Same thing for my process. I pride myself on an equitable process, and that goes from diversity initiatives all the way to, I know there's a stigma about digital auditions elsewhere, but at Marymount, that's not the case. If a digital audition works best for you, do that. It's the same panel of faculty and myself that are reviewing in person and those. So I'm so sort of hyper-focused on equity for applicants. This process is expensive, flying out to XYZ cities. There have to be give and takes of what we can do to help you through it. Marymount historically has been a PWI or predominantly white institution, right? But we have diversity initiatives and a lot of things to help bring in students to make our program as diverse as possible. And that's both gender diversity, sexuality diversity.
Right.
That's on the entire spectrum.
Right.
And we are doing a lot of work currently on overhauling our curriculum as well to make sure that it's an inclusive, safe space and that students have onus on their own education. I try and do that for my applicants as well. I will have one-on-one conversations like we're having, and I'll offer that every day of the week. So if a student has questions about these types of things or needs guidance through that, I offer that at Marymount, at my capacity in Marymount, and I will help guide you through. Even talking about your audition process at other schools. I mean, anything that I can do to help you through that. Now at Marymount, we do not type. We're not looking for a certain amount of types each year. We're not looking to build a cohort to cast our shows. That's not what we're looking for. We're looking for 50 to 55 diverse different students that bring their own unique edge to our community. And that's really it. It's about finding you and who you are. I always say, if you can come in and show us who you are, you've made our job easier and we don't have to dig through your material to try and figure out who you are. So that's really what we're looking for. I know other programs are looking to cast their seasons though. So definitely ask those questions as you're going through the admissions process.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I think this has been wonderful and very educational for me. I hope it's been educational for others as well. Let's see if there are any questions.
Sure.
I'm getting something from, if anybody has a question, you can type it here in the, there aren't that many of us here, but for anyone who is still here, please feel free to ask us a last minute question. Just type it in the chat, in the chat here. No need to submit it any other way, because we also asked a question on our Instagram story today because so many Broadway shows are announcing their opening dates. So we asked which shows are you most excited to go see once we can go back to the theater. And so I have like Wicked, Hamilton, all these, Mrs. Doubtfire, all these other answers that have nothing to do with our conversation today. But I think we pretty much covered a lot of bases here, Kevin, and I really appreciate you coming in today. And I hope everybody takes the opportunity to either study privately with Kevin, contact us, we can help you with that. He can prep you for your college auditions. And we also have that college prep weekend, August 14 and 15. Kevin has taught those before for us. We also have Pace University admissions officer Wayne Petro leading a room. Molly Horan from NYU Tisch will be coming to the showcase, as will Kevin, to the final showcase. We'll do a showcase at the end of the weekend for some additional college admissions officers. But you get to work with great music directors, wonderful coaches from college programs, and then you get to showcase at the end for these college admissions officers. So it's a really wonderful way to get ready for the actual process that you're going to go through, and get great advice on resumes. We're going to talk about everything. We'll do a seminar on resumes, on pre-screens. We're going to obviously hone your cuts and your monologues. So we pretty much cover it all. And you even have private lessons throughout the weekend to get ready for your college audition, in addition to group classes. And we'll do a dance call class. So we'll get you ready for your dance audition. So we pretty much cover all of the different bases. But Kevin, so it's been great talking to you. Let me just check for one more. Let me just see I don't know if it's because I don't know. We don't have any questions, but if anybody has any questions, you can always email us at info@classactny.com. I will send that now in the chat. We have such a long name, so it always makes it especially difficult to type here. Kevin, when are you going back into the office? Has that been decided yet?
I'm hoping this fall that we will be back in person in the office, but I wouldn't mind a little merge between the home life, the working from home, and also being in the office. But I mean, getting back on campus and being in the nitty gritty of the students. We as a college, though, in our department, we are going back 90% in person for our coursework. So our students will be in the studios again, which is really, really great. And I'm super excited about.
And tell me one more thing about that. Are you going to be expecting people to be vaccinated? Is this something that you're making a vaccination policy, or are you can't really do that because some people have religious ideas about vaccines, right?
Yeah, there are definitely religious exemptions. Right now, we're encouraging our community to get it if they choose to get it. It's not a requirement at our institution right now. That may change over the summer with our health and safety department. I'm not sure the intricacies of if you can require that or not. But right
Right.
now, it's self-elected and voluntary.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, interesting. Thank you so much for joining me
Thank
again.
you.
And we'll see you again soon, online and also in person, August 14 and 15 for our college prep weekend.
Definitely. Thanks so much for having me.
Have a good one.
You too. Bye
Bye.
bye.